Hello students, and welcome back to the Lord of the Iron Kingdoms with me, Professor Caster. As mentioned earlier in my comments to all y'all, we are actually going to be doing an update video because right after I posted my last Colossal video going over the Khador Colossals, Privateer Press released all the Colossals into Mark 4. And we're going to do some updates on the ones that I read about but wasn't able to give a Mark 4 description of them. However, a fun fact, right now you can only play Colossals at 75 points and up. I'm curious if that's a glitch or if Privateer Press is just trying to make Colossals more balanced for larger battles, which makes sense. And certain theme armies, even in the Unlimited, actually do not have possession to all their Colossals as well, which could also be a balance issue because certain themes actually use quite a bit of very powerful models, so curious if that's a balanced situation as well, but that's how we have it. Let's begin. We will start with the Storm Raptor of the Circle Oberos, Circle Gargantuan War Beast. It appears his speed is still the same. His mat actually got better at a 6, his rat got better at a 7, which makes sense since he has a nice firearm. His defense actually got better at a 13, which makes sense since he is a bird and he does fly, which I don't know why it was 12 to begin with, but it is a 13 now. Everything else appears to be the same. Some new abilities they put on the Storm Raptor, replacing the Electro Leap, because I imagine that is now an easier, more distributive skill. They gave him high flying, so anybody trying to hit him with a range attack automatically suffer a -3 to their attack. He is now a lightning rod, so anybody within 10 of this model gets electric resistance, which, you know, as we discussed earlier, the resistance is if it's an electric damage, they suffer a 1 less damage die, which makes them much safer for electric battles. This guy also has a plasma nimbus, which if anybody attacks him with a melee attack, they automatically suffer a power 10 electric roll, which is superb because then they get injured just attacking this thing. Unless, of course, they have resistance to electric, but, you know, it's different. And let's go over the new changes on his weapons. Alrighty, it appears his lightning range attack has gotten even more dangerous. So it's still a range 14, alright. It's now a power 15, so that's even more dangerous. He is given a special attack with this weapon that's called Energy Pulse, which everything within 5 inches of it automatically hit and suffers a power 12 electric damage roll, which is awful. Now he is given a forced reload, so he can be forced to shoot 2 more times, and he's now given sustained attack, which I guess after he shoots you once, he can hit you again without having to roll that because you're already kind of staticked. So yeah, 3 POW 15's attacks, or him clearing everything within 5 with a power 12 electrical attack or damage roll is awful, and this guy is even more dangerous than he was before. Very balance breaking, at least as far as I can tell, but I hope to see this guy more on the battlefield because he was one of the few guys I never got to actually see, so there we are. His beak still has Electro Leap, so after he attacks, it can still jump to the nearest model within 3, dealing an additional 10 points of damage to a model nearby. His talons also still have Electric Leap, so those things can jump and do damage to something within, 3 inches at a POW 10 damage roll. And it's still the same 18 POW on his beak and 17 on his talons, so that didn't get much of an upgrade. And he is really a very ranged gargantuan combatant. Also, something I just realized on his cards, he's actually given critical disruption. And for everybody that does not know, disruption jacks up warjacks bad. A warjack hit by a disruption, so in this one it's critical effect, so you gotta roll doubles to hit them. It loses all its focus points, cannot channel spells or gain focus by any means, including being allocated focus. So you can really remove the ability of warjacks to be, at least their following turn, be very effective. So yeah, this guy is horrifying, and you can always fish for crits, so that is the thing. Alrighty, let's see what his animus is. Alright, it looks like it is still Skyfire, however they made it a little bit less wordy than they did before. And I'm just going to read it outright just because it's short. Spellcaster gains ionization at 10 inches. For for 1 turn. When a model without resistance to electricity suffers an electrical damage roll, while within 10 of this model with ionization, it gains +2 to that roll. So +2 damage rolls to all electric attacks within 10, and hopefully it's just your army that has electrical weapons. I imagine this would be beneficial to Signar's electric group they got, but I suppose you guys use this whenever you deem necessary. So those are all the changes. Storm Raptor has become a lot more dangerous and a lot more effective on the battlefield than I would say his original one, but that's just how it goes. So let's move on to the Woldwrath. Alrighty, let's read this guy over. It appears his stat line is identical, still a speed 5, mat 6, defense, or rat 5, defense 7, armor 20. Some of the new abilities he got was bulldoze, so he can push people out of the way up to 2 inches. He still has hyper regeneration. He still has his sacred ward, so he can still heal himself, and people can't shoot him with stuff. However, his electric or his lightning strike actually got a little bit more terrifying. It's still a range 14. All right, it's still a POW 15 and blast 8. However, it's an AoE 4, which means not only does he hit his main target, but he can hit 4 additional targets. And on a critical hit, he knocks everybody down. So everybody that was hit by that gets knocked down, which can really start taking chunks out of guys once they hit the ground. And at a POW 8, it's going to clear out most infantry models anyway. His Stone Fist still have Earthshaker, however that changed since there's not really an AoE template anymore, so just everybody within 2 inches of his fist actually get knocked down, which is still great if you're trying to clear out tight models, and most models are going to be within 2 inches of their main group anyway, just because that's how units move. He still has his Druid's Wrath, so he gives every friendly faction's arcane attack rolls an additional boost while within 10 of him, or 10 of the spellcaster. I suppose you can cast this on from your warcaster as well, which is kind of awful, and you can really turn all of your spellcasters into some weirdly snipey type of people. But other than that, that's about it. Also, their point cost has changed, so a lot of these guys are significantly cheaper than their Mark III counterparts. This guy was 37 in Mark III, and now he is only 27 points, so I guess they want to see more of these guys out on the field, which I would look forward to that, because, you know, what makes this game great? Even more huge base models. Alright, well, let's move on to the Khador side of this and see what big changes happened for Khador. Alrighty, we're going to start with Conquest, Khador Colossal Warjack. And it appears, for stat line at least, that this guy hasn't changed very much. He's still speed 4, mat of 6, rat of 4, defense of 7, and arm 20. It appears the ability he was given was bulldoze, so he can push people out of the way up to 2 inches, so that's great. His main gun still has critical devastation on it, so whenever he gets a critical effect on it, models hit are thrown d6 away. It's still a POW 15 and a blast POW of 10. However, the AoE is now 3 inches. Well, not 3 inches. The AoE is 3, so he can hit the main model plus 3 others within 3 inches. So that's nice. His range on that weapon is still at 15 inches, making that great. However, his secondary battery has lost its creeping barrage, so he can no longer set out those 4-inch templates out in the field that, you know, damage people when they go through it. His secondary battery is now a POW 12, rate of fire 2, AoE 2, and a 10-10. So even if he doesn't hit the model, he still hits him with the blast 10. So maybe that balances somewhere out. I'm not entirely sure. Although it would be, you know, his high explosive he had in the original Mark III. I guess they just pulled over to Mark IV, but they just, you know, kept it the same. His fists are still a POW 23. So yeah, he's almost the exact same thing outside of those 2 changes, losing creeping barrage and gaining bulldoze. So I guess they wanted to play around with that. Also, his point cost dropped to 26 points from his original Mark III of 37, so he's a little bit cheaper. And And, you know, I might see if I can't add an additional Colossal or Conquest into my Khador army. We'll see how that plays out. Alrighty, well, let's move on to Victor. Alrighty, reading through Victor's stat line for Mark IV, it's exactly the same. Mat 6, Rad 4, Defense 7, Armor 20, still moves a grand 4 inches as most do. Looks like he gained Bulldoze as an ability. Looks like his main gun being his Siege Mortar. Still a range 20, rate of fire 1, AoE 4, which is, you know, 4 additional models at 4 inches away. POW 15/8. Still arcing fire, so you can shoot over intervening models. You can still choose your particular weapons, that being Crater, Flare, and Incendiary. However, Crater, on a direct hit, now all models suffer a -2 speed rather than leaving that rough terrain AoE template. His Flare still removes stealth and gives it a -2 defense, and his Incendiary still causes fire to everybody hit, so, you know, it's nice to do. However, a fun thing about this, I guess, with them taking over Lael and getting some of that nice Laelese technology, he's lost the negative attributes to this. So he's lost the inaccurate, which in Mark III gave him a -4 to his attack, and he's lost the minimum range of 6 inches. So now he can shoot this gun from any range and still maintain his abysmal Rat 4 while doing it. Will that help in the future? Not sure. Does that make him a little bit better with this gun? Absolutely. His autocannons still have flak fire, so they still get an additional damage die, or damage. They get an additional attack die on shooting models with flight. So now that's it. It's still a D3 attack, so that's good. And his fists are still a POW 23. So outside of his Siege Mortar getting way better, he's almost the exact same model, at least way better in the sense that he's not getting a bunch of negative attributes and he can shoot things that are closer to him. So that is always useful. But as mentioned before, that's all we're doing today, just going over their Mark IV attributes so we can make sure all these videos are at least as updated as I can with the new stuff. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching and liking and commenting. Comments always help. They give me more ideas for future videos. And thank you, Privateer Press, for finally getting the Mark IV out of these guys. These guys look epic. We look forward to reading the rest of them here in the future. And as always, thank you guys so much, and class dismissed.